Hello and welcome back to this week's edition of Pick'em, where we take a look at all of the area's high school football game action. We're going to start off this week with Aranac Eastern at Baldwin. Baldwin coming off a big win last week. They have a chance for a winning record actually this year. So with a win against Aranac. Bob, do you think that Baldwin has enough motivation to come in here and get a win against an Aranac team that's been pretty successful this year?
Oh, absolutely. When you haven't had as much success as other schools have enjoyed in the past, you want that winning record. You want the seniors to go out with that winning taste, and I see them actually getting this win and keeping Aranac Eastern out of the playoffs. Something a low-scoring game like 18-12.
Brandon, what do you think? Baldwin does have a lot of freshmen and sophomores on this team. Does that play a factor against a team like Aranac, who's going to be going for a playoff spot this week?
Oh, absolutely. I think you have a veteran team in Aranac come, and they're going to invite Baldwin in, and Baldwin gives up more than 37 points a game, every game, on the average. So it's going to end up being a tough game for Baldwin, and I see Aranac taking this game.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think Baldwin has the defense or the experience to hang with Aranac, even though they did win this game last year. I've got Aranac winning a close one here. Next game we're taking a look at is Central Montcalm at Morley Stanwood. A lot on the line for Central Montcalm. They can clinch a playoff spot with a win this week. Morley Stanwood kind of looking to see if they can secure a first round home playoff game with a win. Looks like this was a game that was supposed to be one of the better matchups of the year at the beginning of the year. Bob, has this game lost any of its luster with Central Montcalm kind of struggling a little bit down the stretch, and who do you have winning this one?
I think it has lost a little luster. I don't think Central Montcalm expected to have 3 losses at this point, but I don't think it's going to take away that this is going to be a very good football game. It's going to be hard fought. It's going to go down to the end. I think the determining factor is Central Montcalm has not beat a team that has a winning record at this stage of the season, and I think that means they're probably not quite to that level that Morley is, where we all thought that they'd win the CSAA. So I think Morley wins this. I don't think it's going to be a blowout by any stretch, but I think it's going to be maybe a late score difference. It's a touchdown, they get a second touchdown late, win by 12, 14.
Brandon, what is Morley Stanwood's motivation this week? They've already clinched a playoff spot. They virtually don't have a chance at winning the CSAA with Reed City, all but likely to clinch this week. What are they playing for against a team like Central Montcalm?
They still have pride down there at Morley Stanwood, and the team averages 42 points a game. So Central Montcalm's going to be up against a wall to try to come back and secure a playoff spot for themselves. But I see Morley Stanwood starting slow, playing, testing, feeling it out, but then them coming on strong towards the end. It's probably a two-score difference.
Yeah, I agree. I think Morley Stanwood has been notoriously slow starting this year, but will pick things up in the second half. Just a little bit too much talent on that side of the ball for Central Montcalm to come up with a win. Next game we're taking a look at, Chippewa Hills at Hesperia. This game has a lot more on the line than we thought maybe there would be at the beginning of the year. Chippewa Hills can clinch a playoff spot with a win, and Hesperia also might be playing for a playoff spot and get one of those 5 and 4 spots if they were able to win this week. So the question is, Bob, who has more to play for right now, and who has the advantage coming into this game?
I think you're talking equal when it comes to who's playing for more. They're both playing for playoff spots. I don't think one team has an advantage in that over the other, and Hesperia I would have the advantage of being at home. But Chippewa Hills is starting to play very well here towards the end of the season. Hesperia is struggling to score points. They got to keep it, a 7-6, 14-12 kind of game. I don't see that happening. I see Chippewa Hills winning comfortably, 2-3 scores.
Brandon, Chippewa Hills was a team that, never really overly impressive, just kind of flown under the radar all year. What did they do well to be on the verge of clinching a playoff spot with a win?
What they do is they play really well defense. They can keep themselves in the game with their defense. Their offense, though, has to be spot on. They can't give up drives. They can't have stupid penalties. They need to execute on both sides of the ball, and I see them winning this game pretty handedly.
Yeah, I've got Chippewa Hills winning this one as well. Hesperia is a team that's made a lot of gains from last year to this year. Chippewa Hills just seems to have a little bit more talent. I've got them by a couple scores. Next, we're taking a look at Crossroads at Atlanta. Crossroads trying to avoid a winless season here against an Atlanta team. Has a little bit more talent than they do. Taking a look at this game, Bob, what are some of the things that Crossroads has to work on this week, and who do you see coming out on top?
I think they're working on the same things that they have for the last probably all season. The fundamentals, blocking, tackling, catching, all those basics. They got a tough go. They got to go up to Atlanta. Not that Atlanta is a overly powered team or over powerful team, but I think Atlanta will win this one pretty comfortably.
Brandon, who do you have in this one? Obviously, Crossroads not a ton to play for at this point, but you got to think that this is the last game for a lot of these seniors on the team. That's got to be pretty important to them.
Oh, absolutely. It's important for them. The seniors want to go out with a win, and the underclassmen want to send the seniors out with a win. I'm sure Coach Thorne wants to send the seniors out with a win as well, but it's going to take a lot just to play fundamentally and for them to execute. Judging success, it's them actually driving, executing on both sides of the ball, and making sure that they can score a couple touchdowns and build on that for next year.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be small victories for Crossroads for the time being, because I don't think this team has the talent right now to win. But they can work on maybe putting a couple scoring drives together, making some stops. It's going to be a long road back for them to be competing and trying to get wins, but they can start that this week against an Atlanta team that really hasn't proven to be a winning team so far this year. The next team we're taking a look at is Everett at Manton. Everett has had some tough luck this year. Special teams has prevented them from winning a couple of pretty high-profile games. They've got Manton this week. Bob, is this a week where Everett can clinch a winning season and kind of end things on a positive note after maybe some frustrating endings for them?
I think this is the one school in the area that is going to look back on it. They're going to win Friday. They're going to beat Manton, and they're going to go, what if? Because they lost to Montebello because they couldn't make any extra points. They lost to Lake City because they couldn't make an extra point. They're the one school that's going to go, what if this, that, and everything else. And winning record is going to mean a lot to these guys, but I think in the end they're the school that's going to go, man, we were this close from making the playoffs.
Brandon, with those tough losses that they've had this year, is this an Everett team that can stay motivated? They've showed last week they had a blowout win that they can, but is this something that these players are still going to want that winning season, or do you feel like they've kind of been, with the playoffs being passed by, that the season is over?
Everett still has a lot to play for. They can obviously get a winning season, but like Bob said, the difference between 5-4 and 7-2 this year for the Wildcats is 5 points. They're going to think about it, and it's going to weigh on their minds, but I don't think it's going to be a problem for them against Manton.
Yeah, Everett is a team that's going to look back and wonder what if, like Bob said, but I think they should also take a lot of pride with how they've competed against some teams that I think might have had a little bit more talent, a little bit more experience than them. They can definitely hang their hats on a winning season and build off of that, and I think they will do that by beating Manton pretty handily this week. Next game we have is Holton at Big Rapids. Both of these teams trying to end on a positive note. Big Rapids is a team that's seen its defense play pretty well in recent weeks, but has not been able to score. Will they be able to do that against Manton? That's the question, Bob, and do you think that they'll be able to put some points on the board in their last game of the year?
I think this is the week they put it all together, and I've been saying that for the last 3-4 weeks. But it has to come together sometime. Holton's defense isn't something that's going to stop you time after time after time. I think Big Rapids finally puts points on the board. Their defense has been solid all year. Big Rapids wins this one. I'm going to go out something like 27-6.
What about you, Brandon? You see Big Rapids ending things on a positive note?
Unfortunately, I do not see that happening. Their offense hasn't been able to get going when they've needed it to, and even just when they haven't needed it to, it hasn't just been working flawlessly. Their defense is one of the best. They can hang with teams, but I think Holton's going to give them a lot to chew on, and I think Holton's going to end up winning by at least one score.
Well, I've got Big Rapids in this one because I think that a lot of people in this area believe that this Big Rapids team, there's better days to come for them, and that they're going to be one of the top teams in the area for the next couple of years after this season. I think you're going to start to see some of that this weekend against Holton. They do have the talent. It's going to be a matter of them executing and putting points on the board. I think they will be able to do it. I've got them by a touchdown in this one. The next game we have is Pine River at Beal City. Pine River taking on a Beal City team, not your typical Beal City team, but still a pretty good team that's going to be heading to the playoffs this year. Bob, some of your thoughts on Pine River and what they have to do to keep this a competitive game.
I think any coach would tell you to keep things competitive, they got to keep the ball, have long, sustained drives, keep the other team's offenses off the field. Pine River is hit and miss in that area. Some games they can put drives together and finish them off, and then there are times where they put long drives together and turn the ball over or penalty, or they just struggle offensively. Beal City is not having their typical Beal City year, which is they're 5-3, which is tough to say. I think Beal City wins this pretty easily. 35-6, 35-12, somewhere in that area.
What about you, Brandon? Do you see Pine River coming through and kind of showing some of the talent that they have and maybe getting the right foot forward for next year, or do you see Beal City coming out hungry because they need to clinch a playoff spot here?
I see Beal City coming out pretty hard and pretty strong and securing their spot in the playoffs. It's not the usual Beal City team, and this isn't a Pine River team that can handle a lot when it comes to defense. They're going to have to put some drives together if they want to hang with them, and you can take that to the bank.
Yeah, I think Beal City wins this one. I don't think it's a blowout like we would see in previous years, though, because I just don't think this Beal City has the same level of talent as they have in past seasons. I've got Beal City winning by 3 scores, but it's closer than the experts think, I think, in this one. So we're closing this one out with what might be the CSAA champion Reed City Coyotes. They have clinched a share of the title. They can clinch it outright with a win at Lakeview on Friday. Lakeview, I think, is a better team than a lot of us thought they would be at the beginning of the year. Bob, did they pose a threat to a Reed City team that just kind of seems to be trucking along and getting wins week after week despite what matchups are in front of them?
Lakeview does pose a threat. They are putting things together. They were hindered at the beginning of the year because their coach was hired late. They didn't get the 7-on-7s and all those things. But Reed City kind of reminds me of Michael Douglas in Wall Street. Greed is good. And Monty Price does not want to share the CSAA title. A win is going to assure them of probably 2 playoff games, if not a third, if they make it that far. They're playing for something. I don't think they're going to sit there and say, hey, we're CSA champions. They're going to go out, and I think they blast Lakeview pretty good to put a nice little exclamation point on this season.
Brandon, you got a Reed City team that hasn't gone undefeated since 1966. Do you think that's important to these players to be able to finish that regular season undefeated? And who do you have in this one?
Absolutely, it's important for Reed City to finish undefeated. It's been an emotional year for the Coyotes, and I think it proves a lot to the CSAA and all the other teams that they can hang with anybody. Lakeview is going to have a tough game ahead of them, and the Coyotes are going to have to watch out for Joseph Maine, who's a workhorse of a back. So I got Reed City taking this one by at least 2 scores.
Yeah, I think Reed City gets the undefeated season. We've seen over the past 5 years, we've seen Chippewa Hills, Big Rapids, Morley Stanwood, all these top of the CSAA teams. Reed City's always kind of been maybe a little bit of a step down in those past seasons. I don't think so. They're going to take their claim to fame this year with this year's team. They'll be 9-0 at the end of this week, and I think they win this one big. That's all the coverage we have for this week's high school games. As always, make sure to check out www.bigrapidsnews.com or check out the weekend edition of the Pioneer for results from these games.